What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Scares. Yes, indeed. We're back to that journey through the nightmares with the third film in the Insidious franchise of movies, and this one's called Insidious, Chapter 3. We're taking a sidestep away from the Lambert family this time around, as this is a prequel of the first two movies, and we're going to be focusing on young Quinn Brenner, a girl who, wishing to speak to her recently departed mother, ends up making contact with something much more insidious, leaving our favorite psychic Elise forced to do what she does best and intervene. Perhaps the strangest thing about Insidious Chapter 3 is simply the fact that it's the most forgettable film in the entire saga, and yet it's also one of my favorites. Honestly, it's a mystery for me, but every other film in the series I've remembered more, even though I don't like them as much as I like this one. And I do. This movie's actually solid, as we no longer are focusing on Patrick Wilson, who can't act, and now focusing all our attention on Stephanie Scott, who can act. Not only that, but she's likable, she's relatable, and so is her dad. The scares in this film, likewise, are quite a bit more subtle than the first two movies, and because of that, the story is also paced much better than it ever has been before. I also prefer the demon in this movie much more than the other movies. The other ones you remember. I mean, Insidious 1 and 2, you got the red-faced demon and the old lady in the black wedding dress. Yeah, you remember them, but this demon in this film is never talked about as much as I feel like it should be, with its mysterious tar-filled feet that clomp around and its struggles to breathe throughout the film. I loved this thing. It was essentially a conjuring demon. Not only that, but unlike Insidious 1 or 2, the film doesn't try so hard to show you the demon. I mean, you see it, yes, but it's often lurking in the shadows, in the dark, and you only see bits and pieces of it at a time, consistently building that tension. This was Leigh Whannell's directorial debut, and as such, I'm extremely impressed, as he seems to have just as many instincts into the human mind during its height of fear as James Wan. I believe he was the perfect choice to direct this film, and he's gone on to direct a few other things as well, but everything that I've ever seen him direct, they've all been really good. Upgrade and The Invisible Man, for instance, really good stuff. And as a prequel to the first film, this film was able to be kind of clever in explaining a few things. And before I get to the negatives, I also want to say that this film, like the others, has some decent visuals whenever we get to see what's going on in the further, with lighting and color and creature design. But honestly, if this film is so good as I've been making it out to be, then how come it's so forgettable? How come everybody immediately thinks of the first two films instead, before anything else? Because the first two are iconic. Because the first two introduced the primary concepts that we mostly see rehashed here. Insidious 3 doesn't really add anything new to the idea. Sure, new people and new creatures are in the film, but the actual structure is more or less identical to the first movie, making it feel more like a remake than anything else. Which means, if you're forced to decide between the introductory, iconic first film and the rehashed third, you're clearly going to be picking the first movie, even though the first isn't my favorite film in the world. The third simply needed some new ideas, which coincidentally, the fourth film does introduce new ideas, and I'll be interested in revisiting that one soon. But as for this third one, remember this. It's not a bad movie. At all. In fact, it's surprising how decent it actually is at the end of the day. It's a great companion film, actually, and it even had a few jump scares that got me in broad daylight. So it's definitely worth the watch, if only once. Let's go ahead and break down my final score from a technical, unbiased perspective. I like what they were doing with the visuals as usual, and I actually thought the acting in this film was technically better than the two previous ones. But it's also unoriginal, so there's that. Not a bad score though at 76%. How about my bias score, or just how I felt about it overall? Also not bad. I had a pretty good time with it overall. A bit of the third act kind of lost my interest a bit because it was simply just more of the same and nothing new, meaning it got to be really predictable. But the first couple of acts, I did have fun with those. This score is 78%. When we combine the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 77%. 77 out of 100 possible stars, or a B-letter grade. Guys, let me know your thoughts on this third Insidious film in the comment section down below. As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out!
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie.